Charter California edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in Ventura on our roadshow, and we are joined by the GM General Manager of Ventura Water. Her name is Shana Epstein, and I must congratulate you. As you know, the State Water Board issued conservation standards from 8 to 36%. Ventura came in at 16%. It's still a conservation target, but it's fairly low.
Well, it's low in comparison to
Right.
others, but whenever you've done a really good job, it always is a little bit harder to get to the next level.
Right.
And so we still are encouraging outdoor water conservation is the way to go, and we're working on ways to do that. So,
and let me ask you about that, because in that 10-page report where all the standards were set, I noticed that for Ventura Water, in the period with which they were looking, which was a, I guess, 6-8 month period that just passed, Ventura had already saved 14%. So if you've already done well, how do you get that next 16%?
So what that really included for us was it included some summer months, but it also included December, which in December it was wet and
Right.
it was cool.
Okay.
And so we saved 29% in just that month when you compared it to 2013. And so that really boosted us.
Is that a blessing or a curse?
It's great. But it really shows, and it's a really great example to show the community. I'm not asking you to do a lot. I'm just
Right.
asking you to cut back on your outdoor water use.
And is that really the ticket? That it's all about outdoor water
It is.
use?
When we've looked at homes, it begins at it's about around 40% of your water use on single-family homes is outdoor water use, and that's about 60% of our customer base.
And so what can be done other than limiting watering? Is it 2 days a week in the city of Ventura?
Yes, it's watering is 2 days a week. No watering between 9 and 6 p.m.
Okay.
And
Now,
9
why does
a.m.
that
to 6
matter?
p.m.
Is that evaporation?
Yes, it's the
Okay.
evaporation. So we want you to make the most of it. You can make your watering effective by at least 15%.
Oh, it's that much?
Yes.
Wow.
So it really makes a difference. And so doing that, that's what we're looking for. No extraneous water on sidewalks.
What about there's some jurisdictions that are looking at if there's a rain, let it be. You can't water within 48 hours.
Right,
Have
and
you
that's
looked
part
at
of
that?
the state's new
Right.
rules coming out. So when we adopt our ordinance in June, we're taking an ordinance to the council to
Right.
put in the whole contingency
Sure.
plan. We will include that. So after any considerable rain, that you don't water for 48 hours.
But here's the question. You're a city of over 100,000 people. You have businesses as well. And I presume you don't have a water police.
No.
No. And you have your own police department?
Yes.
I'm sure they're busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully not, but they probably are. So how does Ventura, which is a great example of any kind of nice mid-sized city, enforce these water restrictions, regulations? Because you know Governor Brown is very serious.
Yes.
And he is empowering you, Ventura Water, to impose fines
Yes.
of $10,000 a day.
Yeah.
So
we really took at this as the city council really wanted community input. We had a 13-member task
wow.
force of customers and really looked at this. And they didn't want to have these tremendous fines. They wanted us to take this as an opportunity to educate people, and it's worked because we've educated over 400 customers when we've seen them violating any of these water waste
Right.
provisions. And then we've had significantly less than 100 actually get warning letters
Right.
after that. And we've only given fines to 9.
But Shana, I'm wondering though, and I'm sure it's not easy to hear this, but we are in drastic times. And so I'm wondering if it's time to not play nice anymore.
Well, I think and so on the flip side of that
Right.
is the task force was like, well, we really want to make sure people are making the right choices. So when we put in a water shortage rate, which is also being noticed right now
Okay.
to our whole community.
Which means exactly?
So I'm going to tell you.
Please, go.
So we're asking everyone, we're a mandatory
Right.
conservation of 20%, and we're going to assume everyone's going to get to 20%. So that means our revenues will have a shortfall.
Oh, right.
And so when our revenues have a shortfall, that's really impactful because 75% of our costs are fixed. So, so we're going to raise our rates to have that full revenue recovery because we are assuming everyone's going to do what's right and conserve 20% overall. And so by raising those rates in those higher tiers, because that's we have a protective tier. We split tier 1 into 2 tiers and have a protective tier,
which is for lower income.
For not lower income,
Lower use?
For lower use.
Got it.
And so when you have that, then the rates will go up. And so so those who aren't doing their part naturally will have another incentive or another encouragement to conserve, and those who've been conserving will be rewarded by having that very low tier.
Let me ask you about the tiers, though. I'm sure you know there was a decision out of San Juan Capistrano, and what the court ruled is for public agencies like yours, there can be no bona fide penalty for overusage. There needs to be a linkage between excessive use and the cost for that excessive use. You know, when I think about economies of scale, I would think more use is cheaper in some ways. So how do you get around the San Juan Capistrano decision? I don't mean, you know, pejorative way, but how do you get around it?
So first of all, it's really, San Juan Capistrano, really, that case was about how they calculated their tiers. It didn't make tiers illegal. And so,
that is true.
And so what we really are trying to do is tie that outdoor water use as you go up those tiers to what the costs are going. So not only are we doing full revenue recovery, but we also put in an incentive program, which we haven't had. So because we're not part of the Met family, Metropolitan Water District.
Or you're not MWD.
No, we haven't been giving that $3 a square foot. And so we're going to start that program. And what the task force looked at is really having a large program in earlier stages of drought and tapering it off in later stages of drought. Like, what's the point of changing out your lawn when you only have 50% and you're at a critical? Let's change out your lawn earlier on. So we're putting an incentive program, but that's and we have additional outreach and communication to people. So that's additional 1.1 million we're putting into our budget just for that. So that gets also applied up to those who are using outdoor water use, because we're going to give that money back to them to get it off.
As I understand it, Ventura receives a good amount of its water from groundwater.
Yes.
Important, critical throughout the state. And we've heard a lot about this concept of subsidence in the Central Valley, where they are literally pumping out so much water that the ground is falling on itself and you can't pump it back up. But I guess closer to the coast, when there's overdraft, or could be overdraft, you will see what's called seawater intrusion. And I've heard some communities have faced that seawater intrusion. Have you seen that in your groundwater basin?
So we haven't experienced it directly, but we do extract from a basin that is experiencing saltwater intrusion. And those who are closer to the coast of where that basin is,
I understand.
The Oxnard Plain, are experiencing that. So what to do about that? And one of the things is Oxnard, the city of Oxnard, is looking at treating reuse water and putting it back into the groundwater basin to hold off that seawater intrusion. And that's what successfully actually has been done in Los Angeles County.
What about, speaking of seawater, since you have a lot of it, because you're on the coast, desal? You know your friends in Santa Barbara are looking at desal. Your friends in Cambria, farther north, have desal. San Diego, Carlsbad looking at desal.
So desal is definitely part of the equation. And we continue to look at it. It still is our most expensive option. It doesn't rule it out, because I think as we move forward, we're going to have to really diversify our water portfolio.
Is there a way, given that so many communities are looking at desal, that the cost will start to come down? Like solar, for example. When so many people adopt solar, you see the cost come down. Or is it really fixed at this stage?
Well, it's solar's coming down because you can. But the membrane, the technology for desal is the same technology used for desalters for groundwater that has high concentrations in it, or reverse osmosis you also use for potable reuse. So there's many things, many different parts of water treatment that are using reverse osmosis. So I think, yes, costs will continue to go down as we refine how to produce that. But the most expensive part of that is really for desal is the electricity to keep running those membranes, and then to pump that water up, because if it's at the ocean, if it's at the seashore, you have to pump it out into the distribution.
You have the greenhouse gas issue.
Yes. And
so it's complicated. It's all connected.
It is complicated, and it is. But we hope to have a pilot up for potable reuse at the end of this month.
And when we come back,
when you come back,
we'll talk about it.
Yes.
Her name is Shana Epstein. She is the general manager of Ventura Water. My name is Brad Pomerance. Coming to you from Ventura, it's Charter California Edition.